Hi guys, so I mentioned in a video recently that there were two shark films that I was really looking forward to coming out. One of them is the next 47 Meters Down movie. It'll be the third one in the franchise, but I don't think that's actually started filming yet, so that could be some distance off. But the other one is the film that we're going to be talking about today, The Last Breath, and the reason why I was looking forward to this is because I found the synopsis really exciting. But before we get into talking about that, I've just got to quickly mention Jaws the Revenge. Terrible movie, everybody hates it, but there are two bits in it that I personally really like. One of them is when Michael Caine just randomly goes, "He ate my bloody plane!" And the other one is when Lance Guest is swimming through a ship that's on the seabed and a shark gets in and chases him down a corridor, and Lance Guest, he does get himself out of that situation, but it's very tense. And I've always wished that that scene is in one of the better earlier Jaws films, but the plot of The Last Breath is sort of like an expanded version of that sequence from Jaws the Revenge. So in this film, we've got a bunch of 20-something divers. They're old college friends who are just meeting up again after a long time of not seeing each other. And they've realised, or one of them has, that the HSS Charlotte is on the seabed near to where they are. So they swim down to go inside this thing and take a look around. And this being an old battleship, it's an absolute maze. It's also very large, there's corridors and rooms all over the place. So they're exploring this thing, but they get trapped down there because they can't get back up because sharks encircle the ship, kind of. So this is obviously a life or death situation, but I found it to be a really exciting story concept, a good new spin on the age-old sharksploitation idea. And so when I realised that this film had come out the other night, I jumped on it immediately, watched it and decided to review it. Now, sadly, I can't remember the name of the director for this. I think he's Swedish. He did do a film called Breaking Surface in 2020. So he had already dipped his toes in the world of aquatic horror before this film, albeit Breaking Surface doesn't have sharks in it. I'm only going to name one actor in this, but it's a famous name, and I didn't even know he was in this until I suddenly saw his name pop up on the credits. Julian Sands, who sadly died quite recently. He was only in his 60s as well. I believe he went hiking somewhere in California. He got lost and his body turned up a few weeks further on. I think he was only in his 60s. It's a big loss. I mean, I've always liked Julian Sands. He's one of those actors. He just pops up in random TV shows around about season 3 or something. He'll just come in as a recurring character, knock it out of the park with some really memorable part, and then he'll go away and do something else. I think I've only seen him in one movie, and it was a long time ago, Arachnophobia. I'm not sure I've seen any movies with him in ever since, but a very distinctive guy. I mean, he's one of those actors you'd say there'll never be another one of him. You know, his voice, you'd probably recognise it even without seeing the face. But it was really poignant getting to see him in this film, because I believe this is the last film that he shot before he died. He does look like he's getting on a bit in this film, and I do think that his voice was starting to go a little bit while he was filming this. Like, he'll be doing random sentences and his voice will just trail off in a weird way that I can only put down to being middle-aged or getting towards old age. Interestingly, though, he's playing a guy who's from Yorkshire in England in this. Now, I didn't even know that Julian Sands was English. I don't know what I thought he was, to be honest. I thought he was just some random transatlantic actor who has no origin. Probably in my brain, he's somebody who just popped out of the Hollywood sign as a baby, rolled down the hill, made all the traffic stop, an ambulance came for him, put him in a foster home, and there was a born actor who doesn't actually have any parents or doesn't come from anywhere. Though I suppose in that scenario, he would be American. You know what, just ignore me. But I wish I could say that this film is more of a knockout, just to give Sands one delightful hurrah. It's not that, but it's not a disaster either. It's all right. It doesn't start very well. This film, I hate to keep banging the drum that horror films shouldn't have kills in the first 2 minutes just to kind of get you interested in them, because you should already have decided that you want to watch the movie. You shouldn't need instant gratification in the first 2 minutes of a horror movie to keep you watching. I mean, if there's going to be a kill in the first 5 minutes, it's either got to be a really good kill or there's got to be some point to it being there in the movie. And this is another example where there's just no point to this. So we get a flashback where we see the HSS Charlotte sinking. So we're in 1945 or whatever, and some sailors get in the water and the sharks get them. There's no point to these scenes. I mean, the movie's 97 minutes. You know, take this scene out of the movie, it'd be 92 minutes. It's not like this whole thing came in at 70 minutes and they desperately needed some more footage somewhere. No. And the problem with having this scene there is that the biggest weakness of this movie is the shark effects. They're not the worst I've ever seen, but they're not great either. So why show your hand that you have dodgy shark effects in the first 5 minutes? You might as well save them for around about the 45-minute mark, and hopefully I'll be really into the movie by that point and I won't mind a few dodgy effects. I might spend 45 minutes thinking that this film has Spielberg-esque shark effect. You know, I want to bask in that ignorance. I don't want to know that you have some really dodgy effects up your sleeve. But that's what this movie does. It shows you straight away that the effects aren't that great. And it's like, you just didn't need to do that. Just don't do the flashback. Just go into the movie, show us the characters, and we'll have the shark stuff later on. The characters are quite mixed in this. There are some good ones, some bad ones, but the good ones are pretty much all of the main characters, or the characters who get the majority of the dialogue, whereas the weaker characters in the film tend to be the lesser characters. So on the whole, I'll still say it's a positive when it comes to characters. I really did like the main two, the couple who... It's suggested that at some point in the past they were together, but then they broke up. But during this film, they're slowly drifting back towards each other, kind of a thing. The male, I forget his name, he's one of those people who he could quite easily just live on the ocean and not even have a girlfriend. He's a bit like that guy from Jurassic World, the Chris Pratt character, who just loves the dinosaurs, and yeah, he's not that bothered if he has a girlfriend, you know. He's one of those types. The woman, she's a doctor from New York, I think. Really nice girl, and the pair of them, I was just really rooting for them throughout the movie. Julian Sands definitely is in the group of stronger characters as well, albeit he doesn't go down to the ship because he's in his 60s. He's the guy they leave up top to guard the boat, I suppose, which is a little bit of a shame. It would have been nice if he'd got to do the whole action man thing just one more time, if he's ever even done that throughout his career. But no, he still gets plenty of scenes and plenty of moments, but yeah, he is up top while the main action is taking place. Now, I did say that there was a bunch of weaker characters. One of them is really awful. He's very much like Trent from Friday the 13th, the reboot from 2009. I don't think he's quite as bad as Trent, to be fair, but he's right there in that ballpark. He's a really arrogant banker type from Wall Street. His ego is huge. He doesn't listen to the expert in the group. You know, he goes off by himself in the ship. He doesn't stick to the proper safety routines. He's just got this really annoying personality. He's throwing his money around at the start of the film. Now, I do have a little bit of an issue with the fact that they've made the Wall Street guy the villain of the thing. You know, it's like, I mean, I'm not in finance myself or anything, but it just seems to me that quite often bankers in horror movies, or, you know, financial people, accountants, city kids, that they will get portrayed as really arrogant people who just don't understand the woods or the ocean, and you know. Whereas the main guy in this film is like Mr. Nature. You know, he loves fish and going out diving and stuff. He's like at one with the world, and so he's a really nice guy. His personality is really nice. But you know what would be different? Just flipping that and having the nature guy be a complete tosspot, and the Wall Street guy being really nice. But just something I noticed. But yeah, he can get quite annoying, this Trent type character. But once all the characters are inside the ship, there's some really good atmosphere down there. I don't know how they filmed all this stuff, but it looks really good. There's just the right amount of lighting. There's not a lot of variety in terms of the rooms and corridors on the ship. I suspect that they weren't filming in that big a space, and they're just flipping the camera around half the time to make a new room look different, if you see what I mean. But there are some good situations and setups. It's not just the sharks. they're a threat, they're running out of air, they keep having to check how much air they've got, and just to make it simple, their air is measured out of 100. This film actually feels like it could have been the third 47 Meters Down film. It feels like a plot that would fit in nicely alongside the other two films in that franchise. But I still think that I'm happy to twist on this one though, and see what the actual third 47 Meters Down film is like. But it's definitely similar to one of those. There are air pockets throughout this ship that they could potentially find to give themselves a breather and get their masks off. But with this battleship being, very labyrinthine, it's hard for them to find the air pockets. And there's a bit of infighting here and there, but not too much that you're just berating the characters for not sticking together or anything like that. There's one terrific scene that I'm going to mention that I really liked, where the Doctor character, she treats one of their injuries, but actually inside the medical bay of the ship. And she goes to the cabinets and starts getting out medicines that have literally sat on the seabed inside the ship for almost 100 years. She's looking at the sell-by dates. It's got like July 1945. And she's like, well, it's all I've got. Might as well try it. And she's putting it on this guy's leg and stuff. I just found that quite a clever little scene. So let's go back to the shark effects and the sharks in general in this. I don't think these are fully grown great whites like what you get in the Jaws films. They're just not big enough for that. I felt that these sharks were possibly like teenage sharks, like not fully grown yet, but definitely not baby sharks. Or maybe this is just a different breed than what you get in most shark movies, and these are just as big as they grow. But they definitely move too fast. That was a frustrating thing about this film. Like, you'll see a shark pop up at the end of a corridor, and then it'll come towards a character like a bullet, like, and it's like, yeah, sharks can't move that fast. I mean, that's ridiculous. I wonder if they've done it this way so that your eyes can't linger on the dodgy CGI. But if that's the case, it didn't work, because I could still tell that the special effects really weren't that good. But I think they should have just had the sharks moving slowly and normally. And you can build up a lot of tension that way. If a shark is just ambling its way down a corridor and it's blocking most of the space, and you've got characters hiding behind a door or a cabinet or something like that, just do it that way. Do it normally. It's not like the sharks in this film have had some kind of serum put into them that's made them super intelligent, super fast, like what you get in Deep Blue Sea. So it's just a baffling choice what they've done to the speed of these sharks. It's definitely the weakest part of this overall movie. That they could have made this thing a story where there aren't actually any sharks. Just make it about a group of divers who are trapped in a ship and then they're running out of air. They could have done it that way, though. Maybe this director just didn't want to do breaking surface again. But they could have had it so that there's only maybe one shark attack in the movie. It's just a random thing that happens, and maybe in another part of the movie there's like a piranha attack or something else. You have the occasional sea creature, put a squid in there somewhere. But the main thrust of it all would have been the fact that the characters are running out of air in this ship and they're lost in the thing. They could have done it that way, but instead they've decided to make it a full-blown shark movie where sharks are the biggest threat, despite the fact that you've got this massive playground on the seabed that's so cool, or at least it should be. I am pleased to say that the first half of the movie, where it's just the characters on the nearby island talking and having parties and things, that part of it all is still very good. I was definitely invested in the drama between these characters, even though some of them aren't very good. I still enjoyed all their interactions and seeing all their different dynamics play out. The characters are quite fleshed out in this film, I think. Everybody's got a reason for being on this trip. Julian Sands has got debt problems. One of the girls is just there for romance. She wants to get back with this guy. There's another character who just wants the thrill of going down into the ocean. There's another guy whose reason for being there is that he really misses his college friends, and he's needed this reunion psychologically, I guess, for quite some time. So the character stuff that's mainly in the first half of the movie is actually pretty strong, and the second half of the movie, which moves into the horror, is also pretty strong. It's just a shame that the shark moments just hold the whole thing back a little bit, unfortunately. But I don't regret renting it. It's a solid little shark film. I've seen way worse than this, but I've also seen way better, and I don't think this one was quite good enough for me to buy it and add it to my shelf ultimately. But as a Julian Sands send-off, okay, it's all right. But shall we get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score I'm going to give this? So we got 1, 2, 3 bloody axes out of 5. I think that's fair, and I'd probably recommend you give it a rent if you enjoy shark horror movies, I suppose. Now, just before I go today, one more quick section. This is going to be a regular section that's going to pop up at the end of my film reviews, completely unrelated to the film that I've just talked about, because I have started reading all the Stephen King novels, just as a little side project away from my movie watching. Now, I have read King novels before, maybe 10 or 15 of them throughout my life. I'm just guessing at the number. Now and again, I'll read a Stephen King novel. But for the first time ever, I'm determined that I'm going to get through all of them from his entire career, chronologically. So this past week, I've been reading the first one, Carrie, and I finished it now. Ignore the fact that the bookmark's still in it. I finished it. Really enjoyed it. I'd give it 4 out of 5. The movie version of Carrie I've watched since like the 90s. The movie of Carrie is probably better than the novel, I think, but I still enjoyed reading the novel, and I've just ordered Salem's Lot from eBay, so I'm going to be reading that one next. Like I said, I'm going through chronologically, and I guess I'll just do a little King update at the end of my videos going forwards until I've done the end of this big run of reading all these novels. But I just thought I'd slip that in there. But the main point of being here today was to talk about The Last Breath, 3 out of 5, and why not give it a chance. Bye-bye.